Raffles. We've heard a lot of confusing and complicated testimony today. I'd like to leave you something simple and unassailable to ponder as you consider the fate of this bill. A green and growing tree sucks in carbon dioxide and emits oxygen. A stump doesn't. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Karen Nylander? Lenore?
That was the confusion. You can forget that.
Forget which one.
Never mind.
Alanis.
Hey, Karen?
Leonore Alanis.
Oh, you're Leonore.
Yes.
Okay, Karen? Karen as well?
Hello.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I brought an issue from the Hampshire Gazette, which is October-November. It's dedicated to hiking with kids, joys, tips, treks, and the Wendell State Forest is listed in it with miles and miles of hiking trails and a pond to walk around. This forest is closed to the public 6 days a week now due to logging. I am an educator, environmental artist. I print with plants, I document plants. I live in Amherst and Lever. I would like to speak to the youth topic. We the people bemoan that we suffer from addiction to screens. More so, we bemoan gun violence in the United States. It is a wide arc I'm spanning here. Children who grow up in families and communities that cherish and experience natural habitat and learn from it in the outdoors classroom grow up with a sense of belonging to family and to a greater whole with a sense of awe. Their sense of self-worth and belonging is the antidote to depression, to estrangement from society, and to estrangement from self. Nature, unmanaged, is an antidote to violence, including gun violence. It is critically important that tracts of forest be allowed to regenerate themselves into old-growth forests so that a 120-year-old oak tree and others can grow into their old age 100, 200, 350 years and more. To this speaks Ray Aslan's film, which I recommend to our listeners here, The Lost Forests of New England. The film explains in detail the still unrecognized potency of intact forests and the biological mycelial systems that span hundreds of lives beyond state borders, underground, at the bottom, at the roots of trees. This is New Science, barely 2-3 years old. At the roots of the trees lies this web of life one can sense when bathing in an old forest. Our eyes do not see it, however. Forestry is an industry as we know it, must adapt to climate disruptions, but moreover, forestry today is an opportunity to cultivate right relations with nature. This bill provides opportunity to change from management policies and be reformed to stewardship, and be so inclusive as to include all living beings and the rights of all beings to grow into old age, including you and me. These trees have a right to go into old age. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Len Ayers?
Would you like
David, D-R-I-S-L. Okay. His last name?
Hi, Chairman Piccintelli, Senator Goby, and other members, thank you very much for holding this hearing. My name is Glenn Ayers. I'm from Greenfield, Mass. I've been a soil scientist since 1980. I'm semi-retired, but most recently I was the regional health agent for the Franklin Regional Council of Governments for many years, where I oversaw a wide range of regulatory and code enforcement programs, mostly related to public health. I have been working as a public servant since 1980 for various state entities and local government. When I retired, I'm semi-retired, when I retired about a year ago, I started reviewing the DCR process for timber sales in Massachusetts. And I realized very quickly, since I am an expert on regulations and laws, that the current process on public lands is as follows. DCR picks the area they want to log, they write a plan, they follow a process where they submit the plan to themselves, then they approve their own plan that they have written, and then the regulations, 302 CMR 16, allow for an appeal. In this case, DCR gets to appeal their own decision to themselves, and if they don't like the decision they just made, then they can overrule their own decision. That's the process currently that DCR follows for public lands logging. There's nothing legitimate whatsoever about that process. It is completely illegitimate. They are using regulations that were never intended to apply to themselves, and the other state agencies that are doing commercial logging, industrial strength logging, are following the same process. The only entity that can appeal a decision is the entity that filled out the application, and that's the state. So this is a complete self-serving process, and you have to wonder why. And as Deep Throat said, follow the money. In this case, they've concocted a method to do an end run around the legislative appropriations process, whereby they create timber sale contracts that include in-kind services. So in Wendell, you've heard that they did this timber sale. They included $17,000 of in-kind services that were not subject to any kind of appropriation. Those were capital improvements done at Wendell State Forest under a timber sale contract, capital improvements unrelated to the timber sale itself. So this is the process that DCR is now following, and all other state agencies. They figured out a way to subvert the legislative appropriations process. And I would like you to support H 897 to bring some science and actual control over these agencies that are currently out of control. And I think if you look into it, you'll agree with me that what they are doing is a form of corruption. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Marion Curley. Followed by Kate O'Connor.
Hi, thank you for hearing us. I'm also here to support H 897. As a mother of two, grandma of four, and retired speech language therapist for hundreds of children, I ask you to do all you can to pass H 897. I have been enjoying the beauty of the state, the beauty and all the benefits of the state forests in Massachusetts since childhood when I lived in New York City. My husband and I continued visiting these forests with our children for years. These trips into the forest have led my children to love the outdoors, nature, and diversity. One of my daughters decided to get her master's degree in environmental science. The other daughter chose to have her wedding in Tyringham, surrounded by the lush forests in Western Mass. They both moved here with their husbands as soon as they found jobs. Once we retired, we followed our children to live in Western Massachusetts for the sake of having these lush forests nearby to help our children bring up their own children in this healthy, calming environment filled with rich soils and interconnected biomes to explore, learn about, and love. In a world where so many species are decreasing, becoming endangered and extinct, we cannot afford to allow commercial logging which interrupts this pristine wilderness. The forest biome and soil biomes are becoming depleted throughout the world, along with the growing needs of the industrialized world and the desire to extract all of Earth's resources